Hello, listeners. I'm Commander Merve, and this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel. As you've probably guessed, this episode of the Avocado Gamescast is all about Mass Effect. By the time you hear this episode, the newest game of the franchise, Mass Effect Andromeda, will be close to release or will have already been released. So we wanted to mark the occasion by talking about what might currently be gaming's most important sci-fi franchise. But before we get to that, let's meet the rest of the Normandy's crew. First up, the badass Batarian, Ben.
Good morning.
Next, the terrifying Turian, BannerThief.
Hello.
And finally, the killer Krogan, the Kappa.
Merve. I don't know how Krogan would say that. Like, they say shepherd. Merve.
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah, they're... I don't know how exactly they managed to distort the voices to get them Krogan sounding, but I know that people don't normally sound like that. They must apply some sort of audio filter to the voices.
I'll confess, before this podcast, I was working on my Garrus impression. The thing is, Garrus impressions, you can get the cadence down just fine, but the problem is they added a phalange effect to make his voice kind of have like a bird quality to it that you just can't replicate. It's impossible. I physically cannot do the voice 100%, and it sucks.
Oh, yeah, the reason you... I think they sort of double the audio. So it's like almost the same. You could replicate it if you could do almost the same sort of technique as throat singing, where people can sing multiple tones at the same time.
Yeah, I ain't doing that.
Yeah. It's like I've been able to sort of train myself to do it, but it's really, really hard. Yeah, but it's remarkable that the voice actor plays him. What's his name? Brandon, I forget his last name. Brandon Keener. Yeah, he can almost do it. If you ever, that's like what his natural voice is.
Oh yeah, he's great, and he's great because once you notice him, you'll notice him everywhere. Like here he is in Fallout 4. Here he is in Justified.
Yeah, I remember he was like some paranoid guy on Castle when I still watched that show. He's been around. So I guess we're all excited to chat about Mass Effect.
Yep.
Nah, not really.
Not really.
Like Ass Effect.
Ass Effect. So you guys say Ass Effect, but there's actually, first of all, there's actually a not safe for work subreddit called Ass Effect. If you want to look up Mass Effect erotic fan art, you can on Reddit.
Well, I was going to talk about that.
And second of all, speaking of fucking aliens, Mass Effect recently collaborated with Cards Against Humanity to release an official Cards Against Humanity expansion called Totally Fuckable Aliens. Yeah, so that's a thing you can buy.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say about that, but yeah.
I don't even know. At least BioWare has a sense of humor about themselves. So I'm glad.
I just like to point out that promotional art for that has it right because Shepard's making out with Garrus, which is the only option.
And also, I will point out one of the executive producers was asked on Twitter, like, "Hey, how are the sex scenes in this game? There are some, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, they are more not safe for work than any previous sex scenes we've ever done."
Score.
They're going for it.
Didn't he say it was like basically softcore porn or something?
Yeah.
That I think that was his exact wording.
Started a little bit of a little feud, kinda.
Does nobody want to see like erect Krogan penis or whatever you're gonna see?
Oh, I'm sure it'll.
Oh,
I'm sure
desperately
people want
want
to
to
see
see it.
There's always somebody who wants to see something.
Yeah.
Like 4 balls.
Wait. Okay. So
It probably looks like the alien from those Alien movies, except like metal. Like, I don't know. Would it have scales?
And like not bursting through your chest.
I mean, you know.
Well, depends what you're into. What I've always wondered is Turians. They're like supposed to be reptilian and bird-like. Does that mean that they have penises, or are like birds and just have cloacas? Like
Oh,
it's
we
just
went
one
right
hole.
to penises, didn't
So
we?
they-
I
so
mean,
they have-
we didn't even-
So
we really got to the intro.
here's the Turian physiology, right? So they have penises and testicles like we do. What the thing is, they are not scaled and kind of have the carapace like the rest of their body. So they're actually inside until they are aroused, and they kind of come down, kind of like a dog sheath. Same principle.
Okay, so it works like lipstick. Okay, so we're gonna get into the romance of the Mass Effect series later, but before we do that, we have a special segment that we're going to kick off the podcast with. Because this is a Mass Effect podcast, and Mass Effect, as you all know, was developed by BioWare, we're going to start by talking about everyone's favorite BioWare character, Sonic the Hedgehog. And by the way, that's not a joke. Between making the first Mass Effect game and Dragon Age Origins, BioWare actually made an RPG for the Nintendo DS called Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. And I think we've actually talked about this game on the podcast before.
Yeah.
Apparently it was pretty bad, but better than it had any business being. BioWare actually put some effort into this. At any rate, Sonic is actually, I guess, technically a BioWare character. And as all our listeners know, we absolutely love Sonic here at the Avocado Games Cast.
Love him.
Yeah, we love him to death. So BannerThief, you have some Sonic-related news or information to share with us?
Yes, so on March 9th, a woman crashed into a Sonic drive-in in Nebraska, and she will be prosecuted. Oh, no, wait, wrong Sonic. Sorry. Okay, Sonic Mania is a game with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
It'll be released. It is full. They're going full in with the nostalgia trip. It is going to be in the classic 16-bit style, except in HD widescreen. They're trying so hard to just recapture the magic. They're just going to basically remake the first game.
Right, but see, I always have a problem with this, because they're trying to recapture the magic via the aesthetics of the first game, but are they actually going to try to, in any way, recapture the gameplay that made the early Sonic games good?
Well,
So,
do you know who the guy
trying.
making it is?
Pardon me?
I think
Do
it's
you guys
Sonic.
know who the guy making it is?
Who is
No.
it? Oh, it's one of the Sonic Fangram creator, right? They got on board?
Basically, it was a dude that hacked together basically perfect working copies of the original Sonic games for the phones, for like iPhone and Android and shit, but like, basically recreating the Sonic engine as a custom thing built for the phones, and then Sega saw him, hired him, got him to do the official versions, and are now getting him to do his own game.
Well, that's a lot of faith in this guy. They're counting on him to turn the franchise around. I don't know if that's going to work.
That's really weird. That reminds me of the Skullgirls development team hiring a guy called Zone, whose claim to fame beforehand was making flash porn parodies of various video games. So they hired him to do a bunch of art for their upcoming games.
Well,
That's also actually not how that happened, because I know a bunch about that too.
Oh God, do you?
Yeah, what happened originally is first he did a Skullgirls porn parody, which, doing the porn parody, he recreated the entire user interface in vector art, which means it could be infinitely scaled, which the Skullgirls team didn't have. They had it in rasterized art, which means it was locked at a certain resolution. So they actually, first they bought the vectorized copies of their UI off of Zone so they could use it in their game and infinitely scale it, because why the fuck not? And then he did just like applied like everyone else, did an animation test and all that kind of shit, and got accepted.
Good for him. No snark.
Man,
I mean,
yeah.
he's a good
he got
animator.
it.
And to bring it back to Ass Effect, apparently making porn pays off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good at it.
I actually did want to talk a little bit about how the Source filmmaker has opened the door for all sorts of just weird stuff that you can do in those things. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like stuff I don't even feel like talking about on this supposedly family friendly. Is this family friendly?
This is
you know
not
what? Probably not.
Family.
Never mind.
We have an explicit tag on every single episode of this on iTunes.
I mean, you could listen to this with your family. You probably won't be very friendly, but you could.
You could make sure if you're say 50, listen to it with your adult children.
No,
Yeah, that won't be weird at all.
young children only.
Corrupt them at a young age, and then we have a parent of a young child, of two young children on this podcast. So we should stop saying things like this.
Nah, he don't listen to it. So
Please don't.
I would find the Sonic talk more objectionable than anything so far.
Yeah, Sonic, that's just gross.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Sonic, I guess. Unless, do you have any more Sonic related news?
Not really. I was going to put up a bunch of more fake news about Sonic and whatnot, but then I realized that the term fake news is maybe not one to be used lightly anymore. And two, realize there's actually just not that very much interesting about Sonic Drive-In. Like they got tater tots, they got hot dogs. Their tater tots are better than their fries, which is weird. They have good milkshakes, but
tater tots are always better than fries. I don't know what.
They
are
pretty good. They're very good tater tots.
What's a tater tot?
Yeah,
it's like a. Have you ever had like cube potatoes? They're kind of like that, except they're really breaded on the outside.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine.
Oh shit! Call them potato gems here. Okay, I know what you mean.
Yeah, they're like cubed hash browns.
Oh
almost.
yeah, you call them some weird made up nonsense in Australia. I should have remembered.
Yeah, we call everything weird made up nonsense.
Yeah, that's how it is on the opposite side of the globe. We actually don't have Sonics out in the East Coast, as far as I know. There probably are, but I've just never seen them. So this whole Sonic phenomenon has kind of passed me by, both the video game and the drive-thru. So that's enough about Sonic. Let's move on to what we actually came here to talk about today, which is Mass Effect. So before we proceed, let me just warn our listeners, we're going to be spoiling the entire trilogy here, including the DLC, possibly. So if you haven't... Pardon me. Oh, we definitely are. So if you haven't yet played the Mass Effect trilogy, my advice would be go play it, and then about 100 hours later you can come back and listen to this. But please we advise you not to listen to this unless you've actually played the trilogy.
I've never actually played any of them.
Yeah, BannerThief's just like sat there watching YouTube playthroughs, and he's looped the Garrus romance scenes over and over again.
When I close my eyes, all I see is that headbutt at the end of Mass Effect 2, where they go in for the headbutt, and that's the entirety of the romantic. I'm like, God damn it, are you serious with this? Come on, let me see a little bit. Let me see a little bit of his peen.
A little. That's what DeviantArt is for, my friend.
You can see far more than a little bit.
That is true. So we're all here because we like Mass Effect. I think we all like Mass Effect. So let's start with talking about why this series holds such appeal for us. I like it because I'm a huge fan of sci-fi in general. I like that it's not a dystopian take on the future. There's a lot of these dystopian speculative fiction out there, and this is a refreshing, somewhat optimistic take on the future, which I really enjoy. What do you guys like about Mass Effect?
Fucking aliens.
I love it. I mean, really though, I think so. Star Trek is my favorite sci-fi franchise of all time, and Mass Effect, in many ways, seems to be an interesting sort of modern take on the Star Trek idea of let's take the idea of a far-flung federation of different races. Let's take all those ideas and let's kind of modernize them. Let's add in some technology that's been come around since the Star Trek was in vogue. It seems it seems very much like BioWare was a huge fan of Star Trek. They took a lot of the ideas and they kind of messed them around, gussed them up a little bit. I think they did a really great job kind of modernizing it. Mass Effect, even though it's set hundreds of years in the future, still feels grounded in a very interesting way. It feels kind of like an interesting fusion of the Star Trek idea and the Star Wars idea of the messy technology. Like nothing works completely right. Everything's kind of dirty. It feels like a universe has been worn in, and it feels plausible in a weird sort of way, even though there's, gigantic Reaper machine gods that are coming to kill us all. It still feels like something that could happen, especially the Reapers.
Well, I think one of the things that helps it really feel like that is when you look at like all the crazy future tech and everything they have, the only real like fantasy impossible thing is they discover the element zero.
Yeah.
And everything comes from that. It's like they've added like one crazy fantasy sci-fi magic thing into it and then built everything logically as a progression from that point instead of just like going balls to the wall, fuck it, it's the future, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, they decided, hey, we want to have psychics in this game. We want to have some way to do the FDL travel. We're going to have to fudge it a little bit by creating this fantasy element. But you know what? We're going to build everything out logically from this fantasy element. We're going to explain how it works. We're going to explain why it can do the things it does in very, very nice detail in a way that Star Trek never. Star Trek was kind of like, and we take dilithium and we kind of smash it together and it creates antimatter or whatever. I don't know.
I think my favorite thing about it is, I mean, I hear all the, the sci-fi is cool and all, but to me, what I like most is it feels kind of like a heist game. Like all the games kind of feel like you assemble a team to go do a specific thing. I always love that idea of, getting the right character to do the right thing, and having to choose between, certain types of characters and who do you bring along on missions. The mechanics of that to me is just really fun. I really enjoy that style of gameplay, and then you've got these world-ending type things in the background that you're really competing against. But I really like just that ability to build and create a team, and everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. It's very hard for me to go back to other RPGs where it feels like, I don't know if you guys played like Final Fantasy 13 or any other games like that, where it's just like, okay, there's really a right party to have. Whereas in Mass Effect, you can beat it with whoever you want to go with, or solo, depending on how you like to kill people off. So I think that the game allows you to create your own story between your own Shepard, your own party, who you do and don't use, who you do and don't romance or make loyal or things like that. It's a very customizable experience. And I mean, though most people hit many of the same story beats like we're going to talk about, there's definitely some that that people just don't ever know because they don't play that style or they don't have that character alive in their game, or they played a male instead of a female, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
The thing that always I love the most about it doesn't really have anything to do with the plot or the storyline or the sci-fi. It's just I really like the characters. They're really well-written characters. I really enjoy going into that world and spending time with those characters. And I think the fact that it does the save carry-ons, which I think, is it the first major game to have done that? Like where you import your save into the next game every time?
It's got to be one of the very first. I mean, I know other games in the past have been able to import like characters from other games, like save characters from game to game, but I don't know of another game that did a world state like that from 1 to 2 to 3.
Yeah, like the story, like it makes it feel like it's like something you have experienced. It's not like just a story that's being written. Like my Shepherd that I play the game with is a completely different character to the ones you guys played the game with,
and
that
it's
kind
really,
of thing. And I don't like no other game has ever done that for me before. And then after you finish Mass Effect 3 and you've spent like 100 hours with your personal Shepherd, like it's really cool, and nothing else has really done that.
And the conversations that come, one of the reasons like Mass Effect Andromeda is one of those games I'm going to play the second it comes out, is because I like to have those conversations with people to say, oh man, in this one scene, what did you choose? Or how did this play out for your Shepherd? Or I guess it'll be your
writer.
Yeah, writer. But, I really like having those conversations because it feels cool to say, man, I didn't even know that could happen. Like some games have that moment where you're just like, wow, if I made this wrong choice, I never even got to see this whole thing. My friend basically did the suicide mission. I got lucky, no guides or anything. I got lucky and had nobody die in the suicide mission. He's like, man, that was really emotional at the end where it's basically everybody's dead. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So, I didn't even realize your characters could actually die there, because I had a totally different experience. I was like, well, that's kind of cool, but nobody really dies. And he's like, oh no, people die. I think he lost, I want to say Jacob in the vent at the very beginning, and then he just had a whole bunch of deaths.
No.
He picked basically every wrong person you could pick.
Why would you send a biotic into the vent?
I don't know. But, yeah.
I do like that you can have that suicide mission go so wrong that everybody, including Shepard, dies and the game just ends.
Yeah,
it ends with Joker talking to the Elusive Man. It's really funny. Yeah, I actually, one thing, I didn't have that experience with the suicide mission because I knew going in that people could die. But I had that experience in Mass Effect 3 where I reached the end of the game and then I heard people talking about Tali's suicide. I was like, wait, Tali can die?
Yeah.
Wait,
because
Tali
apparently
die?
Yeah, she'll take off her mask and kill herself because she realizes she's never going to get to her planet, or her planet's never going to be habitable, right? And I think it has something to do
like
with
that.
Yeah,
it has to do with basically
Like when you're doing the Geth mission on the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically like if the Geth win, essentially. Whereas if you've managed to broker a piece properly, and you have to do a whole bunch of things perfectly right in order for that to work, then the Geth and Quarians broker a piece, and then Legion and Tali are both happy, and neither one.
Suits and shit.
Yeah,
Awesome.
neither one commits suicide. So you either have to lose Legion or Tali.
Yeah, my Tali killed herself. It was pretty dramatic because it kind of like you see it happening and you try to talk her out of it, and she's like, "No, I'm committed to this."
Yeah, apparently the Paragon interrupt does nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, she's too fast. So, yeah, I mean that's one of the things. I feel like I got to mention a little bit about Dragon Age because it does something similar. But the world state in Dragon Age is so much more in depth, and I can't believe that they're gonna, they're not doing a hard reset. They have to do one soon. I'm sure, like Mass Effect is doing with Andromeda, but Mass Effect carried so much stuff from even from the first game to the third game. It's really kind of technically impressive. That they were able to do all that. And one of the things that I did to kind of experience different play styles on PC, you can download other people's saves. So if you're like, you know what, I just want to see this ending as a Paragon, you can download a Paragon ending that made all the other same choices, but things like that. Very, very cool idea to just let people swap saves too, so they can see the other side.
Yeah, and I've seen...
That's one of the things I've never been able to do with Mass Effect is do the replays as different versions of the characters. Because, like I said, like I was mainly playing for the characters and everything, and I became really attached to my Shepard. So, like, then you stop... Like, I tried doing a replay as, like, a male Shepard and everything, and it's like, this is weird, and it doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
and I don't like...
I could only play Fem Shep as well. Jennifer Hale's voice acting, I've talked about it here before, is just so good. I don't have anything against Mark Meer. He just kind of
like Mark Meer's really good.
Hale.
Yeah, it's just like Jennifer Hale is like an all-time great performance here.
Because I like I always went Renegade, and I liked Jennifer Hale's performance as kind of like an angry asshole Renegade, as opposed to Mark Meer's kind of sarcastic jerk Renegade, if that makes sense. Like just the tone of their voice. Jennifer Hale gets so much more like into like being a jerk. it actually improves the whole thing. So I liked her character just from the get-go. And I think her vocal performance really elevates her to be, in my mind, the canon Shepard. Is Fem Shep, and so it's weird to me when people talk about their male Shepard. And I think they released the numbers. I think only about 20% of people played a female Shepard. Is that right?
Yeah, most people actually play the male Shepard.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like based on what people talk about on the internet, you'd think it'd be like 50-50.
50-50 would be my guess. I mean, because it's such a different experience between the two. I mean, not just romance options and stuff like that, but there's a lot of cool moments where I've seen like the comparisons on YouTube and things like that, and just the voice acting that she does is so much better. I think just how she gets into the role.
I wonder if there's a trend of like I played as male Shepard and I like Mark Meer just fine, but I will agree that Jennifer Hale's performance is better. I've seen a lot of I've played as female Shepard for one playthrough, and she's on another level. I was gonna say I think there might be a trend of female protagonists voice performances being better, because I remember the same thing in Fallout 4. I remember the same thing in the Dragon Age Inquisition. It's just a big trend of the female voice performances just being head and shoulders above the male. I'm not sure what that's about, but maybe they're just better.
I can only really speak to Dragon Age and Mass Effect. I think to me what it is, it's an emotional thing. They put more emotion into the role, whereas I feel like the male actors are just saying the lines sometimes. Whereas I don't know, if they're getting better direction or...
It might be because they're used to playing more stoic roles, because that's how people write male characters generally. And I don't think it's necessarily that, necessarily men or women are more in touch with their emotions or anything like that. It's probably just what they're used to playing.
Yeah, I was going to say, brief point, like Fallout 4 especially had a weird thing where the male guy is so generic and stoic, as someone else pointed out, that it just feels, he doesn't feel very upset that his son is missing. He just kind of, whatever.
Yeah, I think the male default, not British, but American English Dragon Age character is kind of the same way. think of like Blackwall. It's just kind of like, okay, well, he's just kind of getting through the lines from step to step, whereas you get a lot different emotions from the female characters.
I believe the male American voice actor there is John Curry, who's actually Zevran's voice as well.
Weird.
So, yeah, it's really weird that he does both like the weird Spanish accent and the gruff male American Inquisitor.
Yeah, the British guy is just kind of generically British. I don't know. He's okay, but I think both of them I don't think are as good as the female options. But to me, Jennifer Hale is the definitive voice I hear when people talk about Shepard. In my head when people like when Merve said I'm Commander Shepard, this is my favorite podcast. Like it was weird. Like, oh yeah, I guess that's not Jennifer Hale saying that. So, I loved her role, and I think I'm not sure why she was better or why she worked for me, but I basically got about 20 minutes into Mass Effect 1 when I very first started playing it, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be my Shepard from here on out.
Yeah, I definitely.
One of the things I think that's happened with that though is like now you hear Jennifer Hale in other games, and it's always the exact same voice.
Yeah, like Jennifer Hale is everywhere. Just so you know,
the thing is, she has a lot of range, but I think the same thing happened with Nolan North, like where they get really famous for doing one specific role, and then that's the voice that everyone else wants in their game. If you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nolan North's great because he steps outside of when he does step outside his range, he's really good. Like I talked to a lot of people, and none of them ever knew that he voiced the Penguin in the Arkham games because it's such a weird role, and you would basically never pick it out unless someone told you about it. And he's great.
He's also.
I didn't even realize he was fucking Superboy in the not Teen Titans, fucking Young Justice cartoon. Someone pointed out, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so obviously him. I can't believe I didn't notice that.
He's also Stephen Heck in Alpha Protocol, but you can sort of tell it's him with that role. But he does a really good job with it.
Yeah, having a kid, I hear Jennifer Hale so much just pop up randomly. She's Killer Frost in Batman. She's all over the place. The new X-Men, she's Jean Grey.
Which Batman is she? Killer
Craven
Frost
the Bold.
Okay, because that used to be Laurie Petty.
Yeah, she did.
No, Laurie Petty was the electric chick. My bad. Never mind. Ignore me.
She pops up. She's on Scooby Doo. She's on. I mean, you just hear her voice everywhere, and she's been some pretty iconic game voices too. She was Rosalind in BioShock Infinite, one of the twins.
Yeah,
and she also pops up in a couple different other places. She's Leah in Diablo 3 too. So I mean, like
she's the mom from Broken Age.
Yeah, I mean, you hear
she's
her
Bastila in the Star Wars Coder games.
This one I think was kind of interesting. She did
main
Krem.
playable character in For Honor.
Yeah, and she did Krem in Dragon Age.
Yeah, that's a slightly different voice where she's putting on the British
like
accent.
A deeper, kind of British thing. So yeah, you hear her everywhere.
Yeah, so she's kind of all over the map, and I mean, there's not just Jennifer Hale in Mass Effect. There are a whole bunch of voice actors putting on a bunch of really great performances. Like Ali Hillis, who does Liara. That's a really good performance that evolves over the course of the trilogy, and goes from being sort of timid at the start to being a lot more confident in Mass Effect 3, for instance.
You know who I was kind of surprised? There's a lot of good voices, don't get me wrong, but I really liked Courtney Taylor. I think it's as Jack. That was one of those voices that I think if you messed up, really could have, made that character seem kind of corny.
Her character could have very easily been shitty.
Yeah, but I mean, there was something about that voice where, as she did it, and she was the voice of the female character in Fallout 4. Her voice is kind of, it's hard to explain, but like you can kind of hear behind Jack, like there's a little bit of vulnerability or whatever you want to call it. It's not just, oh, I'm tough, I'm badass. There's a little bit of worry to how she says things, especially when you're guiding through the kids in Mass Effect 3. You know, that mission where you've got to get her charges out or whatever you want to call them.
Oh, yeah, she's running the teacher.
Yeah, she's running that academy. you can really kind of hear it behind her voice acting. Like she's confident and she's cocky, but there's also kind of a little bit more behind it. Her voice acting, I think, was kind of, if I had to say like a minor character or a companion that really was better than average, it was that one.
One of the voice actors, probably the most surprising voice actor for me in that game was, Freddie Prinze Jr. is a really good voice actor.
He's really good.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. Like I expected Vega was going to be just like the worst. And it turns out Freddie Prinze Jr. pulls out this nice like mix of casual and emotional performance.
And he's great in Inquisition too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's Iron Bull.
Everything. He's
really good as Iron Bull.
Star Wars cartoon.
I think being a fan helps him, honestly. Being a fan of the games and the series, I think it gives him a little bit of an edge. But yeah, there's. I mean, to want to talk about a voice cast though, Mass Effect has a fantastic cast. They even get good performances out of the famous voices. You know what I mean? Like how like every now and then they're like, oh, well, that's obviously Keith David, but he still does a really good job, and they have Claudia Black in there because
David always does a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like say Trisha Helfer, they got a really good voice performance out of her for Edie, which I wouldn't have expected.
And looking at the IMDb, even like Yvonne Strahovski, I don't think she was ever a voice actress much.
She's not really a voice actress. She did, I think she did the main character in The Third Birthday, but other than that, she's just not really like a great voice actress.
She's
I think it really helped that they didn't ever try to make her cover up her accent.
Yeah.
Just be Australian. Just don't even try to bother. Just go for it. We want you to be good, not trying to cover up.
She actually does a really good American accent. If you hear her on Chuck, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Dexter. She does a great American accent. Everyone should watch that.
All right.
Just kidding. Let's not. But yeah, she's actually. I think it's best to keep her natural accent there. Works pretty well.
The one voice actor that I think actually kind of sucked though is I forgot her character's name because I kicked her off, but the fucking reporter in number 3.
Oh, Chobot, Jessica Chobot.
I was about to make a joke about her, but she's not great. But I think it says something that I completely forgot about her character until this conversation.
Yeah, she didn't last time.
I basically met her the first time, and she's like, "Hey, can I come on your ship?" No, fuck off. And that was the last I saw of her.
Yeah, I think I led her on the ship and just didn't. And was just mean to her the entire time. It was like my only renegade moments.
God, there was so much embarrassing stuff. Like some people were saying on Twitter, like, "Oh my God, you're in the game. I'm your biggest fan. I'm gonna set up a new game just to not romance anybody, just so I can romance you." I'm like, "Oh my God, please calm down."
She's a good reporter, but I think they just had her on there for a little. I don't know. I don't know if it was celebrity or what, but I don't know.
Who is she a reporter for?
I never heard
with like massive air quotes.
Yeah.
I had never heard of her, and I remember when they announced her, "Hey, Jessica Chobot's gonna be," I'm like, "Who?"
Like, I didn't really care either way. It wasn't like a big part of the experience. But yeah, there's so many good performances here.
This has turned into the Mass Effect voice performance review podcast.
Well, I mean, the two big ones, right, that are outside of the main characters are going to be Martin Sheen and Lance Henriksen, right? And I don't think Martin Sheen gives a shit about video games, but man, he was great as the Elusive Man. I don't know
Perfect choice.
I don't know how they prepared him for that role or told him like, hey, here's kind of the mindset you need to get in or whatever. But man, he was so convincing as just this shadowy, Illuminati type guy. And I loved him. I loved hearing his voice. And then Lance Henriksen was Admiral Hackett. And he's kind of like one of those, like, he's basically the voice that you hear all through 3 for that beginning part.
Shepard, we need you to go to this. We need to go to the Nebula. We need you to kill a bunch of biotic terrorists. Come on, Shepard.
Yeah, and he does a really good job with it.
Also, like, fucking Seth Green as Joker?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that would have worked?
God, that's another one that if they hadn't, it could have been so easy for them to turn him into just the fucking worst.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's actually pretty funny.
Like, yeah, if he could have just been like the comedic relief or whatever. But no, I mean, they give him a story. He's not just the guy who pops up to be funny all the time.
Like, yeah, he's definitely the comic relief, but he does, like, he's an actual character with an actual personality. a large part of that is Seth Green's
Carrie
performance.
Ann Moss was in it.
Yeah. Area.
She's our Ed Float.
I did not realize she was Carrie Ann Moss. Sorry, I've got the IMDb page open, just like, fuck.
Just like the rest of us, we're all scanning the IMDb page for it right now. They got a really good performance out of Carrie Ann Moss.
Was in it.
Wait, Brian Bloom played.
He was the multiplayer announcer, the Alliance Medic, additional voices, and Dana Vosk. I don't even know who the fuck that is.
He's also, I believe, Kasumi's love interest in the DLC.
Kenji. Yeah, I know we were gonna. One of the things we want to talk about was our favorite characters. So don't ruin Kasumi for me because that's gonna be mine.
Yeah, Kasumi is like a really interesting character. I don't remember her like super well because I played Mass Effect 2 a long time ago, and she only briefly appears in Mass Effect 3. But I always sort of found her intriguing.
Yeah, sorry, who did the voice Florence for the Australian mercenary in 2?
Oh, of Zaid?
Yeah, Zaid. Who did the voice for him? I liked him. I thought it was a shame that he was such an asshole when I left him to die.
Robin Socks.
I've never heard of him.
Neither have I. What has he been in?
Australian?
I don't know where he's from, but he's been in a bunch of BioWare games and SpongeBob SquarePants.
So I know his voice actor.
The
voice actor died.
Australian.
Oh wait! Oh, he is dead. Holy crap!
Jeez. Well, he was great as Zaid, so
he definitely sounded like he was living hard. I mean, the way that he did that voice. Yeah.
Yeah, he died like a year after Mass Effect 3 was released.
Oh, jeez.
I guess that's why he doesn't have a. Oh wait, no, he was in Mass Effect 3, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
I don't know.
So
like I said,
they probably
I was so Paragon that I had the choice to just leave him to die, which was actually pretty interesting.
Oh.
So to I guess transition to Kasumi, and I think it's weird because she was a DLC only character, and that's my favorite character that's not a Shepard in the whole series. I love that her plot. I love that they took some chances in her missions. It wasn't all combat. You guys remember that mission where you have to
you're at the party and you have to sort of investigate.
I love that mission. I love that you were stealing the memories of the man she loved, and then there's that thing at the end where it says, what should I do with this? Should I listen to this? Should I keep this? Should I throw it out the airlock or whatever? And you kind of get to weigh in on what do you think about is it worth her continuing his memory and having it, or should she just kind of get over him? Basically, I really like that story and that plot line. She was one of the coolest characters to play with. Her combat skills were really, really fun. And I don't think they had a real rogue type character up to that point. At least that I can't really remember, that kind of invisibility type.
Well, that was
strike.
Shepard if you wanted.
Yeah, like you can turn on the invisibility cloak.
Yeah, she was filling a role that you weren't really able to fill with other party members if your Shepard wasn't spec'd in that direction. She was really good. I liked her personality a lot too.
It was weird to me that they made her.
I like her
DLC
a little
only.
cheeky. Yeah, I like that her personality is a little cheeky and she's a little fun. That character could have easily been really super serious and it would have been justified by her backstory. But I like that they took her in a fun direction.
Yeah, and she's got that crush on Jacob. She keeps talking about, like, hey, do you think Jacob's into Japanese girls that are into kleptomania or something like that? Like, she's just kind of funny. But yeah, she was probably my favorite character, and I think the one thing I want to point out, I think it was a real big mistake that, and now I mean you can only buy the whatever edition, the complete edition or whatever, but to lock those kind of really good characters behind DLC like Zaid and Kasumi, I think was kind of a mistake.
Talking about looking characters, what about Jarvis?
Javik, yeah.
Jarvis,
call him Jarvis.
Prothean, and he's DLC.
He's a massive dick too.
Yeah, but
I love how much of a dick he is. It's great.
He has such a big role in the story. Yeah, if you bring him along, it's like, oh, well, hey, how about we ask this Prothean what's going on here? And he's like, yeah, this is screwed up.
I always felt a little weird that there were so few options for other people to recognize that you had a Prothean in your party. Like, this should be like galaxy-wide news. Protheans are alive. We have one. Oh my god, what can we learn from him? Everyone's like, what are you? You're a Prothean? That's weird. Huh.
Yeah, it's really weird to me that they went that direction. And of course, if you guys remember the way Mass Effect used to do their DLC, it was a fucking mess. You had to buy BioWare points through the BioWare store, and you couldn't just like if a DLC was like $5.99, right? You couldn't buy $5.99 worth of BioWare points. You had to buy 1,500 BioWare points for $10. And you ended up with like 250 BioWare points left over that you couldn't do anything with because there was really
you'd end up buying like shitty weapon packs. You're like, I don't want a fucking weapon pack. Yeah. I just want to play the goddamn game.
Yeah, or I want Javik, or I want all these other characters. I just hated the way they did that system. I'm really glad I don't know if EA told them to quit doing that shit, but around 3 they stopped doing that.
I think it would have been EA that was telling them to do it in the first place.
No, I mean it used to be you would buy it through the BioWare site. Like you would go to BioWare and buy your BioWare points. It was all like incorporated through the forums. It was really fucking horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, they kind of fixed all that by 3.
The BioWare site was linked to the EA one because I remember I had to do that to get my fucking collector's armor in Dragon Age 2.
Yeah,
and then
you're right. You had to add the BioWare points on the BioWare site and then go through EA Origins and buy whatever you wanted with BioWare points that were on your account through BioWare. Just this total fucking mess that didn't need to ever exist.
Just let me fucking pay money to Origin.
Yeah.
As much as we all bag on Origin, and they deserve a fair ton of bagging, like they are massively improved over what they used to be.
I love Origin. We were talking about it not too long ago. I said Origin is probably the best digital service right now. And I mean, I know Steam's the biggest and Steam's the big dog, but man, everything.
We turn this into a shitting on Steam podcast because I love those podcasts.
Oh, we do them all the time.
I think we shit on Steam at like every second podcast because there's a lot to like about Steam, but they haven't supported its features all that well, unfortunately.
Their customer service is garbage, which I had to deal with once, where my account got hacked by people from Russia.
I didn't even realize they had customer service.
And their customer service is total fucking garbage.
So here's my origin story. This is actually Mass Effect related. I have Mass Effect 1 on Steam, and they did this thing a while back where you could transfer over your Steam codes to Origin and get the game available on Origin, right? Same game, just, on Origin. So I did that, and then I went to go play Mass Effect in my replay, and I said, hey, I don't have Bring Down the Sky, which is one of the most inconsequential DLCs ever. It's not much to it.
Which one was that?
That's the big DLC
one.
from Mass Effect 1. Well, there are 2 DLCs. There's Pinnacle Station, and that's the one on the moon, right, with the Batarians.
Yeah, this one is the one where the asteroid has thrusters on it, and they're going to ram the asteroid into, I can't remember what. It's,
They're going to ram the asteroid to a planet, and you got to stop. And at the end, you get a choice of either chase the terrorists down and kill them, or save the hostages.
Yeah, it's pretty inconsequential, honestly. I mean, it comes back up randomly in Mass Effect 3, but it's not a big deal. But anyway, so I contacted.
It's the only place Batarians are in the first game. Otherwise, you don't realize they exist.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I did find it weird that the first game talked a lot because I played guy with a Paragon background. It's like, oh, I had killed a bunch of Batarians when they tried to raid Elysium or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. These Batarians sound pretty crazy. I wonder when we'll see them. Crickets.
So I emailed Origin support and I said, hey, I'm missing Bring Down the Sky DLC, and they said sure, and they just upgraded me to a free full Game of the Year edition in 2 minutes, and it was in my account and everything. And I was playing it an hour later. I mean, I didn't have to go look for old CD keys. I didn't have to prove anything. They're just like, yeah, sure, here's your DLC. It's kind of refreshing sometimes, when companies like that just take your word for it rather than make you produce all these crazy documents that they know you're not going to have. So since then I've kind
and they can see like the code linked to your account.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, I mean, he's got Mass Effect. Why not just give him Bring Down the Sky? So, but yeah, real big mistake I think for how they did DLC in the past to how they did it now, especially when you've got so many cool characters that depending on whether or not people played it at release or things like that, they might not have ever experienced that character.
Like, yeah, I gotta say, you were talking about Kasumi, and I had like no memories of Kasumi because I played it once at release, then put it in again, downloaded Kasumi, did her mission, and then stopped playing because like played with her for like 20 minutes to do a loyalty mission, and that's it. There's nothing more to do.
Yeah, and a lot of times, those post-release, like Kasumi came out in April, and the game came out in January, right? So if you play the game at launch and beat it, you might not go back to go play one character's arc. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I'm the crazy person for replaying the games over and over again as different characters. Like, that's not normal. Most people just play through it once.
Yeah, like I've only played through 2 and 3 once.
The Leviathan DLC for Mass Effect 3 that has like really important plot information in it that didn't come out until months.
Yeah, it explains what the Reapers are, which is something the game otherwise doesn't really do.
I'm gonna take issue with that because I don't like the explanation they gave, and I liked it better when the Reapers were some unknowable force. But now they're just like fucking rogue AI. Who gives a shit?
I love the Leviathans. I mean, the Reapers are still a rogue AI. They're just patterned on the Leviathans. That's the thing.
I didn't need that mystery answered.
I love it. That's one of my favorite DLCs.
Yeah, I really like that DLC. It's got some good missions in it. It's got a really good payoff.
I think like the also introducing the idea that there are like these giant god creatures like living under the ocean of some planets is awesome as fuck.
Yeah, like the idea that there's something even worse or more scary than the Reapers that has been like dormant, like basically hiding out from all this other shit that's been going on, doing who knows what. And, you know, like there's that scene at the end where they start to kind of emerge from the water. And like at first you think it's like maybe one or two, and then you start to see all of them start to rise up. Very, very cool scene. And I don't know if they're going to show back up. You know, who knows if they will in Andromeda, but a really cool big bad to build up towards, because, I mean, Reapers had a lot going on with their AI, you know, and their humanity versus machine type thing going on. But Leviathan seem to kind of just do what they want to just because they can. Kind of like, you know, malevolent god kind of things.
Man, if we're going to get into this, are we going to get into the fucking ending? Because we kind of need to talk about that, don't we?
I have so many feelings on Mass Effect 3 in general. Honestly, as much as I love the whole Mass Effect saga, I think 3 has a lot more problems than just besides the ending.
I mean, but I think the ending is the most, like, egregious problem in that game.
I like some things about the ending, and I hate other things about the ending. Well, yeah, sure. Why don't we get into it? We're gonna have to.
I don't know. I mean, my feelings in the ending were just like, I played it before the extended cut came out. I've actually never seen the redone ending.
I only played the extended cut, so yeah. So I'm coming at this.
Oh, okay. I can see why you don't think it's that bad then, because the extended cut fixes a lot.
Yeah, it does.
No, I haven't seen the extended cuts, and even without having seen it, I thought the ending was just like okay. It didn't ruin my life or anything. It was like, oh, the game's over now.
Yeah, I
just kind of moved on with my life.
Same thing as me. I thought the ending was okay. I didn't think it deserved anywhere near the amount of internet hate it got. It was so disproportionate, you know.
The petition for people like we want to petition BioWare to go back and fix the game. Like, fuck you.
No, they wanted like people to be like fired. Like they wanted like, you know, like writers, you know, drawn and quartered in the city square. I mean, it was never going to be a happy ending, right? Let's just start from that point, right? The whole theme the whole theme of 3 is sacrifice, right? I mean, like each game has kind of its own like theme. You know, like identities for 2, and you know, like who are you in the universe, stuff like that. 1 is like humanity versus aliens. There's kind of like the weird xenophobia going on there. 3 is all about sacrifice, right? You watch all these important characters make huge decisions one way or another. You know, obviously Morden. You know, you've got Thane kind of just fading away. All these characters are making their own little version of like coming to terms with the end. There was no way that game ends on a happy note, right? Where your Shepard saves the galaxy and you're all just sitting there posing for a picture, right? So, I mean, in that sense, I didn't mind that they killed off, or, you know, at least, you know, seemingly killed off Shepard. That wasn't one of my complaints. I didn't like how they handled the Elusive Man. I didn't like him showing up back at the end. I thought that was kind of, I don't know, overdone.
Yeah, them messing with his character is one of my biggest problems with the ending. It really felt like they just wanted to shoehorn him as the big bad, which just makes it. You already have a big bad, the Reapers. You don't need 2 big bads. You're fine with 1.
He didn't need to be there, and I thought Anderson's whole point. I would have liked it better if it was just you up there, kind of making that decision on your own. I was okay with the 3 decisions because I think one of them was a false decision. There's no way you make peace with the Reapers, right? Like, I don't know anybody who chose that one. Most people either want Destroy or Synthesis, right?
I went Control.
Oh, you did?
Control's an awesome ending.
But,
You don't make peace with the Reapers, not at fucking all.
But Control's like what Elusive Man's always wanted to do, right? So I mean, you've always been like, you can't do this. So I don't know. I mean, it just seemed like one of those things where like it didn't seem like to me like it would work, because then it proved the Elusive Man right, and the whole series was kind of, a space race
Here was
dream.
my reason for choosing Control that I went with. Okay, Destroy's fucked up, obviously, because I was bros with the Geth. I don't want to kill them all. Synthesis seemed a lot like forcing a piece on people that they didn't come to naturally, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Like, it's you deciding everyone is now half robot, half organic. So, and everyone's just like, well, fuck, what's going on now? And Control is the only one that left the people of the galaxy as they were to make their own decisions, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also went Control for that exact reason.
Yeah, you just get a fucking Shepard is now an army of Reapers.
Also, it seemed to fit in with the rest of the game, because like Shepard, the game is still explicit that Shepard is going to basically be absorbed by the Reaper conscious. Shepard is still going to sacrifice himself. None of them. It's very much seemed like, are you willing to give up yourself for the fate of humanity, or are you going to take a cop out by forcing synthesis or destroy? Which I remember the game being kind of iffy on whether destroy was even going to work. So I'm like, I'm not going to pick this.
I would destroy. It was the only thing that really made sense to me. Like, I just assuming that this is like a cyclical thing that's always going to be around. It's always going to. There's only a matter of time if you control it before you start to use it for whatever means you want, right? I mean, you have that level of power, and you just want this thing gone from the universe, where future generations, 10 million years down the line, don't ever have to worry about the Reapers again. So I mean, I saw the Reapers as a force that eventually would be used and exploited, and I thought the universe was kind of a better place without them. It's before Leviathan, so I didn't know there was other worse stuff out there.
I went with Synthesis because I could just run straight without having to turn.
Did anyone here just shoot the fucking kid?
No, does that work?
It works in the extended cut, but not in the original.
Oh, doesn't it work? Yeah, you can just shoot the fucking space kid. And he's like, well, fuck you, and everyone dies.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
And then the ending is, you know how it cuts to Buzz Aldrin talking about, like, Shepard was so great. Instead, it's just, like, a ruined planet and that little recording Liara makes you make.
Yeah. See, I know I made the right one with Destroy, though, because my Shepard breathed at the end. And I know you guys didn't get to see that, so I guess I made the right one.
My Shepard is the Reaper,
so... yeah, I did like... I mean,
my Shepard is half green now, I think. I don't really know what happened. I didn't pay that much attention to the ending.
My Shepard is in the mind of one of the Reapers, I guess. It was a little unclear on what exactly happened to him, but I guess that's what happened.
Extended ending fixed so much, and the real ending of Mass Effect is Citadel, right? I mean, the ending of the Citadel DLC, where you guys have that party, and
that Citadel DLC feels so good.
Yeah,
I just played it.
I wasn't one of the I'm okay with the endings of Mass Effect 3. I hated the ending. Like, it was one of those endings that I saw, and like when I first saw it, I was like, that was okay. And then the more I thought about it, the more I hated it. The more Citadel made me forgive all of that. It's fucking perfect.
Yeah.
So I played Citadel on the heels of having played Omega and Leviathan, neither of which I liked at all. Citadel reminded me why I liked Mass Effect in the first place.
Yeah, Citadel should have been in the base game, honestly.
Citadel is the best gaming experience I've ever had. Like, it's flawless.
It starts out weird. It starts, because people mostly remember the party stuff. Remember, it starts out with that weird, like, chase scene all across the Citadel where...
though. Like, you get to actually go on mission with your entire squad, and Rex is back?
Yeah.
Like, fuck yes!
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about it that's so good about Citadel is we don't normally talk about Mass Effect for having, good gameplay mechanics or good combat or great level design. And if you play Citadel back to back with the other DLCs, you can see the effect that having, great art direction and good level design and good combat encounters has on the game. Because Citadel has all that in spades. Like, the level design is really, really good when you compare it to running through, like, the metallic gray corridors of, say, Omega. And the combat encounters with the verticality, adds just this extra element that isn't there in the other DLCs. So like even from the standpoint of just like interacting with the game, it's far superior.
Yeah, and I think that they are learning. I really think that BioWare as a company is learning from so many mistakes, of the past, and I think you see it in Dragon Age and Mass Effect kind of coming together at the same time the way they are. One team teaches the other team or makes the mistakes, the other team doesn't make them. Dragon Age had that.
For Andromeda because I did not like Inquisition.
Well, but Inquisition has a fairly concise ending, at least, where I mean it's like, and then it builds on the ending through DLC.
Really though, the ending was just, hey, Silas is fucking weird, and
Solus, you mean?
Like I said, I didn't really like the game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't played the DLC for Inquisition yet, so I'm still
the Trespasser DLC is very, very good.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but I'm gonna get around to it eventually. Once
I ended up very much liking Inquisition, even though I had a lot of problems with the way its open world is laid out. It felt like a 30-hour game being stretched out to 80 hours because of how big the world was and didn't really need to be open world.
yeah, and that's. I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later. That's sort of my fear with Andromeda. That I don't really think Mass Effect thrives in an open environment, but maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Well, if we want to go right into Andromeda, I mean, I think there's a chance. They've been talking a lot about a lot less focus on things like combat and a lot more focus on things like diplomacy and building up your relationship with allies and things like that. They basically said that there's a lot of portions of the game where you can just basically, bypass entire quest lines by just building up relationships with the right people or the right allies. So it seems like they kind of learned that, that's what people want, which is, I think, a lesson from where Dragon Age went with some of their stuff with, getting the world ready to fight the Inquisition. Do you choose the Templars or the Mages? So I think that's something that they're kind of learning as well in Mass Effect. But I'll be interested to see what they actually do in terms of exploration being a valid strategy or diplomacy being a valid strategy. Not everything's where you yourself need to go land on a planet and fix shit. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Also, you have a car, which will make it way better.
Yeah.
You got a space car. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, you could ride around in a moose in Inquisition if you wanted to.
One of your squad mates has a space pixie cut. That's pretty cool.
I think
Space Pixie card.
Andromeda to me is a necessity, right? You need to make a clean break. You can't continue the Shepard story anymore.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, Mass Effect 3 is like we all talked about like whatever choice you make, the world state ends up very differently. Like everyone could be dead.
There is no way you can,
or everyone could be a robot.
Right, and what gets me most excited, I would say, about Andromeda is the not just the first game, but as the beginning of, let's say, like a new trilogy. You find that perfect planet and you start to build a planet from scratch. Think about where that ends up 3 games from now, or you know what I mean? Like, think about if you're building the Citadel and you get to see the progress and how that goes from game 1 to game 3. That's going to be really cool stuff.
Yeah, you want to talk about the choices you make in the first game having a visible impact in 3. Like, hey, remember when I told this one guy to do this one thing about this base in the first one? Well, there's game 3, and holy shit, look what came of that.
It's
now we have an entirely new city.
Holy
what I want to see really is... Pardon me?
No, never mind. It was just a dumb joke.
So, what I really want to see in eventually from BioWare is I want to see a sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda set, say, 100 years after it. Because I want to see the effect, I want to see the civilization that results from Andromeda.
That's exactly what I'm getting. Like Mass Effect 1 through 3, the Shepard trilogy or whatever you want to call it, it's a story of humanity joining something that's already in progress, right? Like there's already a Citadel, there's already a council, there's already specters, everybody knows all the aliens that already exist. Mass Effect Andromeda is all exploration. It's kind of the opposite, right? I mean, you have your alien friends that you travel there with that know the old world or the old area, but everything there is all new. You're the first person to see this. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some civilizations and stuff like that, but I mean, everything you do is going to be leaving a mark for games to come. Which I think is going to be awesome.
It's sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because there's the novelty, and novelty is is a good thing. But there's also all this lore they've built up. And one of the things that's really intriguing about the original trilogy is the richness of the politics and the way the different races and aliens relate to each other. And I mean, you're not walking into a world where that's uninhabited. You are meeting the existing races that live in the Andromeda galaxy. But you're sort of walking in on something that's not well established or that you don't really understand that well. Whereas you have a wealth of information already about the world that humanity has entered recently. So you're coming at it from a different perspective, and I don't know if it's going to have the same richness as the original trilogy in terms of the political relationship.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't fall into the Star Trek Voyager problem.
Well, I think what they want to do is I think they want to introduce you to these new alien species and then say, okay, friend or foe, you make that decision. These guys have the only habitable planet. Do you want to wage war on them and take it from them, or do you want to peacefully coexist with them? And then, over a series of games, what does that decision look like? Things like that might be. I'm not saying they're gonna do that, but that could be some ways that they could, if they really want to flesh out that building an ally type scenario.
Yeah, and the way I see it, like the world you're going into, Andromeda, you say like there's all like the political backstory and everything in the fucking Milky Way galaxy, but when you get into the Andromeda galaxy, there are still going to be the aliens. They will still have like relationships with each other because they are spacefaring aliens. So it will still have that. It's just that you won't be aware of it. It'll be something you discover as the game goes through, not you start the game and suddenly have 400 codex entries to read to figure out what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. And I mean, just imagine that, like, so you land and it's okay, do you take the side of the Geth or the Quarians? Or do you take the side of the Krogans or the whatever?
Turians.
Yeah. I mean, you make that decision right then. Which I think could be kind of interesting. We can see how it plays out. We wiped out whatever the new Krogans are, and now that we're having to face, whatever Leviathans, was that a right decision or a wrong decision? Who knows? So I think the legacy of what Mass Effect is not one game, right? It's making decisions and seeing how that plays out over a series. I mean, I don't think of Mass Effect as one game anymore. It's almost like a MMO or something where like the story just keeps continuing, keeps going on. And yeah, this is a break, but the promise and what the series is all about to me is still there, which is where you keep telling the same story and where it goes from there, not just make one decision and, okay, well, that's how this played out in this one game. Okay, the end. It's seeing where it all ends up, by the last second of the story, I guess.
Yeah, have they announced that they're going to do? I mean, they almost obviously will, but have they announced that they're going to make like a direct sequel to Andromeda?
No,
is Ryder going to appear again? Or?
They play a lot of that stuff very tight-lipped. Like, I don't even think they've announced the sequel to Dragon Age yet. I mean, like, BioWare tends to do the, hey, we've been working on this game for 5 years. It's going to come out next spring. Like they don't really tend to build that hype machine too long. Like a lot of other companies do.
Yeah, they played Andromeda really close to the vest. It was really weird. They announced it fairly early and then basically went radio silent on it for.
I almost wonder
if EA. I almost
wonder if EA forced them to announce it so early because they clearly seemed uncomfortable talking about a game where they didn't really have anything to show. Yeah. And then the radio silence was like, we're going to come back to you in a year when we actually have something to show. And it almost seemed the implicit, EA made us told you that we had a game coming out, but we didn't want to tell you.
They did that.
Oh, God.
3 years in a row, didn't they? Because the very first announcement was just an environment and there was a model of a Krogan, and that was it.
I was like, yep, Mass Effect. That's pretty cool, right?
The second announcement was it was just the like over-the-shoulder camera footage of people working at desks. And then I think the third year was you saw like snippets of like 2 or 3 seconds of gameplay, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, everybody assumes that they're working on one, right? I mean, like, it's not the kind of thing you need to announce. I think you just announce, okay, yeah, here comes the new Dragon Age. You knew we were working on it. It's going to be out in March. It's not like the kind of series where like, gee, I wonder if they're going to keep printing money. Like, yes, of course they're going to make a sequel. There's going to be another Elder Scrolls. There's going to be another, name one of those. There's going to be another Halo. You just assume.
Yeah. I think with Mass Effect,
I gotta say,
actually legitimate to announce it because Mass Effect 3 ended so definitively. Like, you could very easily go like, Mass Effect's done. We're starting a new franchise. and it would probably sell just as well with from the makers of Mass Effect written on it.
Yep.
And it's called Grass Direct. It's about weed. It's about weed business.
Yeah, I mean, they could do what they did with say CD Projekt Red is doing with Cyberpunk 2077, and just say this thing exists, and we're not going to talk about it until we're ready, and then just go silent.
Well, how long ago did they show that trailer?
Cyberpunk 2077.
That was a hype trailer too. I'm like, whoa, this is exciting for the game. What's the game about? Oh, we're not going to tell you for like 3 years.
I do think that
on Google.
I know everybody loves Witcher far more than I do, but I do kind of feel like, okay, so they made their Dragon Age series, now they're making their Mass Effect series. I don't know. I mean, it does kind of feel a little derivative to me. I'm excited to play it, and I'll definitely play it, but I'm like, I can't help but notice.
I'd say it's probably more like their Deus Ex. It's very,
Cyberpunk and Witcher existed way before video games, though, right?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it's just something about them. I never really, as a company, I just reflexively don't like CD Projekt Red for some reason.
Dad, you're a bad person.
I've never played The Witcher. I can't judge.
Okay, even if you don't like their game, CD Projekt Red are like the nicest company ever. Like, they're too good for. We don't deserve CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, they were talking about like, oh god, someone was like tweeting at like, oh god, the GOG version of Witcher 3 got out and people are pirating it like crazy, and they're like, maybe that'll convert us to buy our game. What are you gonna do?
Like when they announced the big special edition of The Witcher that had all the extra content and everything, and people were like, oh, but I already bought The Witcher. I don't want to have to pay for this again. They're like, of course you're not going to pay for it again. You get it for free if you have The Witcher.
Yeah, but lots of companies do that now. I mean, Skyrim did that with their extended version. I don't know. I mean, I guess just for me, I used to be really big into abandonware games. Way back in the day, you guys know what abandonware is, right? Like,
yeah,
games. So, and then
when you were poor and couldn't afford games, so you got all the old games.
Yeah. So then, CD Projekt Red bought Good Old Games, which used to be kind of like an abandonware haven, and then kind of monetized a lot of this. So now instead of getting Heroes of Might and Magic 3 for free, now you pay $2.99 or whatever to them, which I guess is a thing, but it just kind of always left me like with a feeling of like,
it made the gray market
$2.99 for fucking Heroes of Might and Magic, and it works on Windows 10 now. I remember.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like we went in and make sure this isn't gonna fucking break your Windows install if you install it.
Why didn't they do that with The Longest Journey then? Because that thing is still fucking broken. But yeah, they definitely made the gray market a lot less gray.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, back to Mass Effect. It's my CD Projekt rant.
Yeah, so
that's right. Wanted to say about Mass Effect. One thing I think with the big open world and everything that I think is going to be way better about Andromeda than was in Inquisition is the combat looks really good in Andromeda.
I agree. I was surprised.
You're surprised that I wasn't too excited about it.
I was like,
they've made some strides with their shooter controls in Mass Effect. Mass Effect 3, I noticed, felt noticeably snappier, and the shooting felt a lot meatier. And I've talked about meaty shooting before on this podcast. But Mass Effect 3, it looks fast, looks fun, looks like they've really, especially after Inquisition's combat was never anything better than, well, it's okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing: they've shown off some. I'm not sure if it's the actual combat mechanics in and of itself, or if they've just shown off some really uninteresting gameplay. Because they've shown off some combat encounters that look pretty neat, and they showed off this combat encounter from this really rocky area that looked like really boring.
There's a pretty good
down piece by piece, like in their combat trailer thing.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking about. I don't know if you saw that combat trailer one, but it shows like how to attack the same situation like 3 or 4 different ways. Like they've actually built in melee fighting now. That's actually a thing. Or you can snipe, of course. Or it shows like all the biotics and all the different things. I think it was part of the Andromeda Initiative video series.
So I'm thinking of like the original gameplay trailer versus I think they showed off some of one of the characters' loyalty missions. I would
really say go watch that combat video if you can find it. There's one that's
I saw that one.
Okay.
I actually was not like super impressed. It seemed like it seemed maybe it's just the way they were playing it, but it seemed like they weren't doing anything much differently from Mass Effect 3 other than using a jetpack occasionally.
Yeah. I mean,
air dashes make any game better.
Yeah,
as we know from Dishonored and the blink move.
I really like the way that they're actually making melee combat a thing. I kind of like the idea of my writer being a big dumb space idiot who goes around just hitting things with a hammer. I don't know. Like, oh, you're the Pathfinder, the representative of humanity, and then you just run around being a barbarian.
Scott Ryder, played by Ryan Lochte.
Space barbarian might be my new shepherd. So yeah, I mean, the thing to me about Mass Effect that I wanted to see from combat, which I did see, and then I've been kind of, like I mentioned earlier, separating myself from watching some of the stuff. Is that they're letting you play different play styles, because that's how Mass Effect to me grows and changes, is by letting you be a space diplomat or be a space barbarian, or like things like that. That's what makes the game more fun to play your way. If the right answer is that everything's easier by sniping, well then that kind of sucks, because that means everybody's going to snipe.
Right. It means they haven't balanced the game properly.
Well, I mean, look at like Knight Enchanter in Dragon Age. I mean, people it is the class to play if you want to beat dragons. And so, like, whenever people are like, "Oh, this game's too hard," everybody just says, "Oh, play Knight Enchanter."
You just use your magic sword.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see that for Mass Effect. I want it to be like, okay, well, how about bring in your allies that you made 2 planets ago or whatever. That to me is more interesting than just get good at combat. And Mass Effect, I think, can pull that off a lot easier than Dragon Age can.
I was gonna bring up, you brought it up earlier. The Mass Effect's always, even when the combat didn't feel very good, it always felt really well balanced. Like, if you wanted to, you could play this as pretty much a biotic specialist. If you wanted to, you could bring in a team of all biotic people, and you could make a go of it if you wanted to.
Not the first game in the series, but definitely 2 and 3, you could do that.
Oh, the first game's combat was terrible. I mean, I think they realized that
first game.
Right out the bat. I mean, it felt like the kind of combat that you would put in an RPG, not the kind of combat you put in whatever. I mean, like, it was real. Like, I always felt like there were some numbers being rolled behind the scenes, because I'd be like, that shot looked like it was on. I don't know how I missed it.
I remember there was a bit that always used to find how shitty the combat in Mass Effect 1 was. Is that I think it's Vermeer, the level where you can shoot Rex. Yeah. Is that the one where you shoot Rex?
Yes.
And then panic and restart your game. There is a bit in that where you can get your sniper rifle and zoom in on the dudes and like snipe them off and everything, right? When you're driving around in your fucking car, except the enemies render in before their hitboxes render in, so you can see people and shoot them, and it's impossible to hit them because they're too far away.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just standing there like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I have a future space gun that the Codex just told me regulates how powerful its shots are to hit where you're aiming at. This shouldn't be happening.
Like, it's like 100 meters away. Come on.
I actually just played Mass Effect 1 with just a shotgun. It would just run up to things and shoot them right in the face, and everything died. That's
how I played Mass Effect 2 too. Is like, Vanguard, you just run in with the biotics and the shotgun. You just hit them with the biotic blast, and you run in and blow their faces off.
It's the dumbest way to play, but like, if you're just trying to do a quick playthrough, that's the one to go with.
Get an assault rifle in that game and get enough heat sinks on it so you can just hold down the fire button and it like cools down faster than it heats up.
Yeah, I mean, there was and Mass Effect 1 had lots of problems. Replaying the series, I mean, I was thinking, even if just in technology terms, like, think about how bad the inventory was in Mass Effect 1. Think about the way the map was always kind of like cluttered. I have a feeling that Andromeda is going to fix so much of that. And I mean, I remember when people were complaining in Mass Effect 2, like, they took out too much of the stuff. Like, it's not as much of an RPG. Like, oh, you remember the first game where I picked up the 9th version of the thing where I'm carrying the 8th one. I guess I'll throw away all these 8 ones now because they're useless. And it all looks
so much.
I think they did overcorrect for Mass Effect 2, but for Mass Effect 3, I think they brought back some of the RPG elements that were missing from Mass Effect 2, and I think they got the right balance there.
I remember in Mass Effect 2 being really dirty that they got rid of like the Citadel, like as a main hub you can walk around and talk to people. And then I played Mass Effect 1 again, and oh my god, fuck the Citadel.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
That really slow jog and taking like 10 minutes to get anywhere. Like, oh, I need to go talk to him.
Yeah, the Mass Effect 1 movement didn't help because characters had such a weird weight on him. Like, it felt like it took a second or two for him to respond to anything you wanted to do. Like, oh my god, hurry the hell up.
Or like you're playing like and kind of only half paying attention. You accidentally run to the stores when you realize you're supposed to run to the wards or whatever. You got to run all the way across the Citadel. Yeah, that stuff was so horrible. Three is so balanced to me. I mean, 3 is right in that sweet spot between RPG and shooter that I don't.
Oh, I have no complaints with how 3 plays. Like, yeah, they really nailed it in a lot of aspects.
I think where it really shines is in the multiplayer. I expected to hate the multiplayer and just another tacked on multiplayer, but I mean, I played it well after I had 100% galactic readiness. I actually really liked it. I leveled up my little Geth, whatever it was, infiltrator guy, with a sniper rifle and just play with people all day. And the multiplayer being a co-op is a smart move because the kind of people who play Mass Effect, I don't think give a shit about leaderboards and kill death ratio and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean that's an RPG crowd for the most part. So that was smart to make a co-op multiplayer.
It also has one of the friendliest player bases I've ever encountered in multiplayer.
Yeah, people be like,
people are either silent or the only thing they'll say is "good game" or "nice work."
Yeah, I like when I was playing I played not too long ago when I replayed because I had to get my galactic readiness up, and there's still people who play. It's very, very active actually. I probably waited longest I probably waited was 5 minutes to find a game, but they'd be like, "Hey," I was like, "Hey, I'm new, I haven't played in a while." And they're like, "Oh, go to this sniper spot and just stay there." And like they'll like build turrets around me so like I could control the map and stuff. It was very cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was weird to go from that to like Doom or whatever else, where people were just like.
It's nice talking about this right after I just finished playing Battlefield 1, where like the first thing like, hey, I haven't played this map. Get good, noob. Get a sniper. You suck, fucker. Go away. Blah blah blah. You suck. And then people griefing me. Oh God, fuck that game. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't understand why people are like that. It's a video game. It's intended for entertainment.
But Andromeda, I haven't heard if it has multiplayer yet.
It does.
Seems like okay,
it does.
They will. Yeah. It's not
similar to Mass Effect 3's from what I've heard.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but I do know that they are going to have some kind of drop in and drop out co-op strike team thing. That sounded really cool to me. I don't know how that works. I don't know if that's just the new name for what their multiplayer is. But I was excited about the prospect of, putting together something and, having people drop in on a mission with, I don't know who it would be, their version of Ryder or some kind of character you create or something like that. Like I said, I haven't been paying attention to some of the details as much as I have just the story and the world stuff. But the idea of a drop-in, drop-out multiplayer to me is really a cool idea for a Mass Effect series.
I wonder if that stuff carries over to some of the single player. I wonder if it would be able for me to like, hey, I'm having a real hard time with this mission. Hey, Kappa, could you come over and help me? And you could just drop into my game. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Something like a Dark Souls version, but instead of invading their world to kill them, you show up as some kind of alien and help them. But I haven't
Dark Souls except with the friends.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
and then I'll yell at you to get good, noob.
Yeah. I mean, I know they were demoing it.
Having a look, and no, it is a separate multiplayer mode, but is linked into the single player via a narrative context.
Oh, a narrative context. Okay, so then Dragon Age style, I guess.
All right.
Yeah. Shit, that game had multiplayer, didn't it?
Yeah,
it did. Yeah, I think I played it once and I didn't care for it, and I just never played it.
It wasn't terrible. It just wasn't what I wanted out of it, especially after Mass Effect 3 had good multiplayer. Dragon Age like, I don't know.
Yeah, because I was excited for Mass Effect canceled their multiplayer beta, kind of infamously earlier this month. There's supposed to be one I think now. But they canceled it, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, is this shit not ready or whatever?" But if it's a co-op multiplayer, I think people are a lot more forgiving with that kind of multiplayer because someone cheating or someone whatever doesn't really affect your game. It makes the match go easier for you. So I don't care so much that they canceled their test, but I do want to know what this strike team stuff they've been talking about is.
I'm guessing it's going to be similar in format to
what the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer was.
Well, because I'm like with the narrative tie-in, I'm wondering if you play let's say a multiplayer map, if it if there's less enemies in the story or something like that when you get to a certain part, or if they just do a galactic readiness thing where the more multiplayer
there's absolutely no tie between single player and multiplayer, actual gameplay wise.
Yeah,
it's completely separated modes.
Huh.
Okay, so they're doing it like Inquisition. Because there are a lot of people who didn't like the whole galactic readiness mechanic, so I can understand why they're doing this.
Huh.
It's I don't know if anyone ever played Assassin's Creed multiplayer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For about 5 minutes.
And how that had a story place in the main game, but didn't actually have any effect in the main game. Like,
Yeah,
it was the Abstergo training missions or whatever, but then it didn't actually affect what was going on in the main game at all.
In Dragon Age, they just basically have war table quests that involve the multiplayer characters. I think they unlocked them all at some point, but at the beginning it was like you could only get those war table missions if you played the multiplayer or something like that. I'm not 100% on that.
I don't really remember.
Yeah, those war table missions are at some point I was like, okay, whatever. Go Leilana, go. Like, I don't care who does it. Just somebody go do this one. But yeah, I remember that. But I'm excited for Mass Effect Andromeda no matter what. But the multiplayer, I'll wait to see what it is. But I do hope that they implement a little bit cooler.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with just a standard horde mode, but we'll see what they cook up. It does seem like they I think they understand what people liked about Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. I think it's going to be relatively similar.
Yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. So going back to the original trilogy, we mentioned what we liked about the series. We mentioned our favorite characters. So what are some of your most memorable moments from playing the trilogy?
Death of Morden is definitely number one. I think that's probably across the board for everybody.
Especially if you talk to, I love that if you talk to him about, in some really insignificant conversation about how he sings opera in the second game, that comes back in a really nice way in his death scene. And if you don't, you miss it and it's not a big deal. But if you do it, it's just a little extra. Oh, that's nice that they actually remembered I had this nothing conversation with him a game ago.
Yeah, I think as he's dying, he's saying like, "I am the very model of a modern major
general."
Yeah. And but they changed it to like Solarian. In the lyrics. But yeah.
I think that, to me, that's my number one example of like what Mass Effect can be as a series. But I mean, if you want to get a little bit, kind of off the story, I guess it would be. Do you guys remember that Horizon mission early on in Mass Effect 2? Where you go to the planet and like it's in the middle of a collector attack, and you get to like see like the people like turned into statue stones or whatever. You see the first collector ship, and that was a really cool mission to me to start out so early in the game, to kind of show you what's going on with the story. And I really liked that, the way that ended up working out. Obviously, the collectors became a much bigger deal throughout that game. But yeah, it was, to me, it was really cool that they would start right out with that Horizon mission and show you what exactly the collectors were doing. Because at that point, it was only kind of like a rumor. Do you know what I mean? That these collector ships were going throughout and doing all this, and then they show you like, oh shit, this is actually kind of. It was pretty terrifying to see, like all the bugs are coming down and everybody's like frozen and they're just shoveling their husks into ships. I thought that was a really cool way to set up. At that point, what was kind of like a mid-tier sub-boss alien race, the collectors.
Yeah, for my money, they did a better job of establishing the collectors as terrifying than they ever did for the Geth. Because the collectors, like from mission one, like, oh my god, these guys they're horrifying. This is horrifying shit they're doing.
I think that might have been kind of intentional because the Geth weren't like where they went with the Geth. Like, you know what I mean?
They're not really supposed to be villains.
Yeah,
they were slaves, basically.
I don't know if I ever really understood, because that there's that part with the Geth where you go inside Legion's consciousness or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't really get that the Geth were ever supposed to even be villains, except for they needed a robot for you to go fight, in one, and it kind of felt like that's what the Geth were. But their storyline ended up getting fixed so much that I could kind of see them as villains if you had never met Legion. Which could happen, right? I mean, there's a way to. Yeah. I mean, if you never met Legion,
not recruit him.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, you could have. I think there's some variables you could change in conversation to just have him get killed, or maybe I can't remember if you can tell him not to get on your ship, or you can just destroy him as soon as he wakes up.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
You don't have to wake him up. That's right. It's
an option
to actually wake him up. You can just like leave him fucking frozen.
I mean, it sucks because he's so good. Oh,
yeah, but if you never did that, your whole view of the Geth would be so different, right? Like Legion's the one who basically explains the Geth VI to you. That it's more of like a religious collective, where at the time just think of them as like a bunch of brainwashed robots. But that's kind of an interesting way. But yeah, Legion is the gateway to understanding the Geth. But for a lot of people, yeah, if you never woke him up or if you never recruited him, yeah, I'm sure that you don't have anywhere near as much of a tie to the Geth as other people.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important for the game to provide that perspective. And that's one thing I appreciate about the series, its ability to sort of recontextualize things that you didn't fully understand earlier. Like how Saren becomes, like, you think of him as this selfish dickwad at the start of Mass Effect 1, but by the end, he's sort of like a tragic figure who's, been indoctrinated. So it's neat that the game can do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, just Legion's whole thing with Tali at the end, we talked about a little bit earlier about Tali killing herself. When you try to basically tell Legion that I'm going to kill the Geth, his argument is really good, about how can you say we're not alive? You're killing us. I actually saw a video, because I was looking this up, I knew we'd end up talking about Tali a little bit in that decision, but did you guys know that if Tali dies in 2, what's her name? The girl, the woman from The Expanse.
Dashlu.
Yeah. So if Tali's not alive, what happens in that scene with Legion is Legion's like, hey, you know how like you can try to do a Paragon or Renegade action to stop Legion or stop Tali? It's what her name is, the Admiral shoots Legion in front of you with a shotgun and just explodes him in front of you. It was like, oh shit, I never knew that could happen, but when I finally watched that video, it was insane that was a scene that they actually wrote in where somebody else just blasts Legion in front of you and explodes them. But yeah, really, really cool scene.
Yeah, I've never experienced Mass Effect 3 with like missing characters or the alternate versions that you have if you lost people in the suicide mission. So I hear a lot of people talking about like the Tali replacement and the Mordin replacement. I forget their names. But I've never actually experienced them. And apparently they're very different characters with very different personalities. It's not like, here's Mordin with a different name.
Right.
Like, it actually changes things quite significantly.
Yeah.
I had the replacements from Miranda, Thane, and what's the sorry chick's name? Samara. And they're pretty great.
It's so weird that there's like this like shadow version of Mass Effect 3. You know what I mean? Like that, from a programming and everything and a creation standpoint, they had to be like, well, what if this person really sucked at this game? There's
my friend played through it, and the party at the end of Citadel?
Yeah.
That shit gets really depressing if you're bad at the game. Because he's having this party with like 2 people, and it's like that's everyone that's left to last.
It's just like my childhood birthday parties.
He had like Rex died. He was the only survivor of his suicide mission. He was and he's just playing this party, and there's just like no one here, and like the party goes from like this fun, everyone's having fun, to everyone just kind of like sad drinking, remembering all their friends that are dead.
Yeah, I think there's an image somewhere of like how like there's like the picture of the couch like at the end, you got everybody alive. It's like this couch full of like rows and rows of people. I think like the minimum you can have is like Edie, Joker, Jacob. What's the other guy?
Jacob can die though in Mass Effect 2.
Oh, not Jacob.
Yeah, you can kill him in the suicide mission.
The not Jacob. The shuttle pilot.
Vega. Oh.
Steve Cortez.
Yeah. So and then like I think Liara. I think like that's the minimal people that you can have. It's like Edie, Joker, Vega, the shuttle pilot, and Liara on the couch, like looking like, oh my god, this is the worst party ever. It's funny to me, like I said that.
Speaking of like the shit you see like that, which I guess you guys said you got through the suicide mission with everyone alive, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like there is a scene which I got of Tali getting really shit-faced drunk in the pub, remembering Miranda, and just being like, I guess in the end she wasn't such a bitch after all, and just being like really sad about her dying, which like it's just one of those like random things you like stumble onto when you're walking around your ship between missions.
I got really. I mean, I didn't have a guide or anything. I played it when it happened. I just got really lucky with just who I thought would do each thing. A lot of it I thought was common sense, honestly. Like Legion in the vents only makes sense, right? He's not going to be burned by steam. And then the biotic.
See, I put Thane in the vents because he's an assassin and used to like climbing through vents and everything.
Now you're fucked up.
Yeah, and he fucking died. And then I put fucking.
Well, Thane fucking
Samara...
dies anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Then I put Samara in charge of like all the people because she's like the old like general army lady and everything, and she fucking looks at a missile in the face and gets shot in the face with a missile. Like you fucking put your head behind the door.
Yeah, you got to use it for the biotic barrier.
I don't even know how. No, I put Jack for there. She did fine. I don't even know how Miranda died. Like I did. Like it was Miranda at the end, and Miranda was alive.
This is interesting.
And then just the like last pan over the thing, she's just lying dead on the floor. Like, oh, fuck! I guess she died too.
Miranda's interesting because you can actually have her put in a situation where she should die twice, and the game actually gives you leeway. Like if you put her in a situation once, you actually get a freebie with her because the game really wants you to keep her alive.
You're talking about if she does the biotic, there's like a biotic thing.
She can't do the biotic barrier. That's the one thing that it seems like she should be able to do, but she can't because she has an overinflated assessment of her biotic abilities.
But you're talking about when she leads the party, right? When she leads the second
party,
team.
like she can get got there and still stay alive.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the game gives you a freebie with her in an interesting way.
I had Jacob do it, and he got shot in the chest, but then just stood back up, and he's like, "I'm good. Let's keep going." And I was like, "Was that supposed to happen?" Or, but yeah. So, because I thought that was weird, and I sent Morden back with the injured crew members, because I figured like he was a doctor. If they needed medical attention, he could help them, and that worked out fine. And then I think Zaid lead the. There's like that charge at the end where you've got that second team that holds the door or whatever. I had Zaid lead that.
Yeah, that's where Samara ate a missile.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had Zaid do that because I was like, whatever. He's an old mercenary. He seems like he could handle this kind of thing. But yeah, it all worked out for me. And then I was like watching my friend's video or like he showed me his ending on YouTube, his version. It was just like everybody's dead and Shepard goes to make the jump. There's nobody there to catch him
because all his fucking
oh my god. This is fucking dark. Doesn't feel like you beat the game at all if that's the ending you get.
And of course, everyone's favorite moment in Mass Effect series is when Kai Leng comes in. Everyone's favorite character.
Yeah.
Wait, am I supposed to hate Kai Leng? I don't.
He sucks.
Understand why.
Why
does he suck? I don't get it.
He's apparently in some books that I didn't read. I only read like the first two, and he's not in those. I just thought the way they handled him was so dumb. Like, oh, here's a character you've never heard of before. He's really super badass and powerful, but if you just play him in the normal game, like you can murk him pretty easily. But whenever he's in a cutscene, he gets dumb invulnerability, and Shepard's suddenly a dumbass who can't handle him.
Yeah, I thought that was really a big mistake. I know he is, like you said, he's in the books, and apparently he's kind of like, if you know how like Miranda was engineered to be like the best biotic or whatever, he was basically engineered to be like the pinnacle of yeah, exactly, like the pinnacle of ninja-ness or whatever. But I never read the books either, so I was just kind of stuck like, who's this dork? And the most annoying thing is like you're saying, like I beat him, I shoot him in the face, and then it's like the cutscene shows up and he just punches me and runs away. I'm like, wait a minute, So yeah, that was really annoying to me and kind of jarring, especially because my latest playthrough, I had like I just cheated. I just wanted to go through a lot of the story moments. So I had like amazing of vulnerability, like my bullets did like 10 million damage and stuff. So like there's this cutscene, he shows up, I shoot him once, and it's like another cutscene of him just overpowering me. I'm like, oh yeah, this is dumb.
Yeah.
It always just weirded me out that like the entire game is like you have your magic powers and everything, but everything is still kind of like grounded in reality and everything. And then this fucking anime character shows up.
Yeah.
Like he's like doing like backflips and he's fighting you with a sword, and you're just like, who the fuck are you, and why are you not in like a completely different game?
He was
So I wanted to
bring they just took a character from Jade Empire and stuck him in Mass Effect.
I wanted to bring this to attention because there's a game designer, developer, writer who writes that I really like called Seamus Young, and he did a gigantic like 50-part write-up on the entire Mass Effect series. And when he finally got to Kai Lang, he made a good point. Like, Kai Lang is what happens when you're at an MMO, when you're at a role-playing party. Like, you're all ready to play Dungeons and Dragons. One guy's like, I'm going to play like a dwarf. He's kind of a jerk. Another guy's like, I'm going to play an elf ranger, and she's kind of a protector. She's kind of matronly. Like, and then someone shows up with Kai Lang's like, I'm going to play the most badass ninja ever. He's cybernetic. He's got like a sword that does 10 million damage. Like, and his character is so out of whack with the rest of the game that he ends up making the entire game about himself. And that's what Kai Lang is. Someone had a pet RPG character they really wanted to carry over, whether or not he made any sense for the setting.
Wasn't he supposed to be in some kind of DLC that got cut in 2 or something? Were they supposed to introduce him in 2, but he never ended up getting...
I have no idea.
I don't remember hearing that. I just remember hearing like, oh, just read the books if you want backstory. And then I looked his backstory up on the BioWare wiki and like, I'm good.
Yeah, I just remember hearing that they were going to try to... He was going to at least be supposed to have been introduced before him, like, but he never, for some reason, never got in it in the game. Like, he never made the cut. So that's why he just kind of shows up in 3 with this stupid story behind him that nobody's ever really even heard of this guy before, when apparently he's done all this amazing stuff according to the books, but it never even mentions him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's such a small part of Mass Effect 3 that I just didn't care.
I mean, the game needs bosses, right? They need sub bosses, or just people that, because you need to kill people. You can't all just be Reapers and Reapers.
Have a boss, so
yeah.
Yeah, they could have done him differently, but he was such a small part of the game that I just didn't care that he was there. But yeah, I mean, I get the complaints. It's just it didn't register for me.
Well, he just got like this huge backstory, right? I mean, like, I can't remember what he had stuff like involving like Saren and all kinds of stuff. But he just kind of in the game he just kind of shows up as this whatever guy.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Mass Effect wiki right now, and he has a super long entry for a
character who's in the game actually for like 20 minutes tops.
Yeah, and he's just got... It would take me longer to read this article than to interact with him throughout Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, it's weird. Like that. Apparently the books that feature him aren't very good either. Like, apparently those quality of those just went off a cliff.
Again, I'd forgotten how dumb he looked.
Yeah, I remember
it's a shame because I actually kind of like the first. The only books I read were the first 2, and they weren't terrible. Like, you could do a lot worse for tie-in novels.
Yeah. I'd still recommend the Dragon Age ones, but the Mass Effect ones, the only one I read was a comic book, and it wasn't very good. So I don't know.
Novels
are fine. The novels were mainly just
lore.
Backstory for Anderson, and which I thought was kind of needed because I liked Anderson, but it didn't feel like he was in enough the game. The first book especially, like all about him and his interactions with Saren and it actually lends his interactions with that one blonde Kaylee Sanders in Mass Effect 3 mean more, because they actually used to be a fling and there was the whole thing. It's really interesting how they tied that in.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I missed too, because when Citadel came around, I was like, wait a minute, like all these people were like double agents and all this stuff. I don't know how I missed all that, but apparently a lot of it was from the books.
Wait, is the villain from Citadel also in the books? I forget her name.
The clone shepherd?
Not the clone shepherd. The person who's collaborating with clone shepherd.
I can't remember.
What's her name?
I don't know.
I want to say yes. I'm not 100%, but I guess we can all Google it.
We can look it up. That's the great thing about...
Yeah, everyone typing.
Yeah, everyone's typing all at once. Yeah.
So
I will say...
That up, we're talking about like what the defining moments of Mass Effect for you guys are. I reckon probably the fucking... I just said it before. The shooting Rex mission.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Vermeer.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because I remember I played like Mass Effect 1 when I first got it and got up to fighting Matriarch Benezia and was just like, fuck this game is shit, and quit. And like Mass Effect 2 got it out, so I'm like, fuck, I might as well go back and beat that game. And like up until Vermeer, like Mass Effect 1 I think is kind of a mediocre game. It's not great. Then like you get you can shoot Rex, and then I had to panic and reboot my game because I thought that was a joke option and didn't realize I would just kill him. And you get the first boss fight against Saren, and like all shit starts going down. You have to kill one of your teammates. Like you get that whole like hold the line speech. You find out about like Krogan Jennifer. Like it's like shit goes down in a big way, and that to me is like where Mass Effect actually properly starts. Because up until then, it's just like the fun dumb space adventures. Then you're like, no shit, man, this shit is for real.
That's a really good point. Especially because like you having to make that first choice really kind of tells you like, okay, this is a happy story where if I play hard enough, everything's gonna work out. You know, like there's gonna be stuff that I can't control.
Fucking Caden and Ashley dying. Choose one, and you're just like, wait, what? Just choose one. Like, Ashley's a bitch, so bye.
So I actually had my favorite, the one that, well, the memory that really stuck with me actually revolves around Ashley. So it's not that I didn't dislike Caden. I just thought he was kind of boring, and it didn't help that he was voiced.
That's why I let him die.
Yeah, it didn't help that he was voiced by the same guy who voiced fucking Cartho Nasty in the KOTOR games. Oh, Cartho Nasty is the worst. Anyway, so I had Caden get got on Vermeer, and I kept around Ashley because I really liked Ashley. I thought she was a really interesting character, and I liked that she was a little bit racist because that seemed kind of realistic and believable.
Yeah, I would say that I would Ashley's an easier pick than Caden to me because she might be an annoying racist, but she's at least interesting. Caden is so fucking boring.
Caden is mayonnaise on white bread. Holy crap! But one interesting thing he does, like, hey, when I was training to become a biotic, like I saw this girl like get wrecked, so I wrecked the teacher in his place. Like, oh, are you actually kind of be interesting? And he's like, no, I'm not. That's all I had to say. Sorry.
You know, I felt justified for always killing Caden because on my most recent one I didn't, and he gets so mopey when you turn him down as a female shepherd. Like he becomes like the picture perfect like nice guy who starts, you know, like whenever you go like, oh, okay, well, you're not gonna date me, so I'm just gonna go sit over here in my corner and talk about my headaches. Like all he ever talks about from then on out is his headaches or whatever. And I was like, yeah, kind of glad I didn't.
He's the
pick
worst
you.
because I like pity banged him in Mass Effect 1. And then in Mass Effect 2, he's like, because you meet him on the fucking collector mission, he's like, oh my god, what are you doing? It's like, dude, just fuck off. He's like, no, I thought we had something special. Like, no, dude.
No, like I pity fucked you.
So that
I got Jacob now. He's like twice as hot as you.
Yeah, so that was the thing that.
Yeah, I'm
that
like,
stuck with me.
I'm with Garrus. He has mandibles. You don't have mandibles, so fuck off.
That was the thing that stuck with me because on that mission, like halfway through Mass Effect 2, where you meet back up with that one, like I picked Ashley as my romantic interest, and like so I came back. It's like, oh god, Ashley's back. I can have her in my party. We're gonna go on a bunch of adventures together. We're gonna talk us out. We're gonna hug it out. And she's like, you know what? Like I might be kind of racist, but you're working with a group that's like hella racist. I'm not hanging out with you. And I thought it was interesting that a character I really liked and that I really wanted back in my party was just saying no, because it felt realistic. It felt like oh, this game isn't just going to cater to what I, the player, want. It's going to take into account that the character Shepard that I'm playing as has made some rotten decisions, and characters aren't just going to fall in line just because I'm the player and I'm the best.
Yeah,
I really like that.
I think my defining moment in I think most everybody knows about this moment, but I think when I really the game kind of all came together to me was when you get to make the Arachne queen decision, because like you're deciding the fate of an entire species based on kind of, you know, just what you want, what you feel like. You know, these are this evil queen of these bug aliens that almost wiped out the humanity, but she's saying she's going to be a good one, so. You know, you gonna let her go, or are you gonna kill her, or what? I thought that Arachne decision was really
that
interesting.
decision had more impact in the later games. Like,
oh, me too.
Yeah.
They basically they almost retcon it by Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, and in 3 there's a little bit of them, right? Like you see the thralls in that one area where the Arachne have been taken over by the Reapers, right?
Yeah.
Is that in Leviathan?
No, that's part of the base game.
It's in the main game proper.
Yeah. So I mean, you definitely see there is some impact, but I mean, you don't ever. And I think after you do that mission, you do get Arachne forces as part of your galactic readiness, but you don't ever see.
Yeah, but you never actually get to see.
Yeah, you just hear like, hey, a bunch of like you get like a little codex like, hey, a bunch of Rachni showed up to help build the Crucible. Everyone's super scared of them, but they seem to be friendly so far. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think like there's like one of those like news reports too. You know, like when you walk around, sometimes like there'll be like those little Citadel news. It'll be like, I think it talks about the Rachni showing up and don't shoot them or whatever. Kind of the same idea.
Yeah, I really
That's
my
that's one thing that Mass Effect 3 did really well though, is like that incidental dialogue that sort of provided flavor for.
Well, they did that from the
universe.
first one because that was how fucking Blasto got introduced, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Just hear the ad for his new movie.
yeah, Blasta, the first Hanar Spectre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it became like this running joke throughout the trilogy because people just ran with it.
It's
Same with
weird
all
watching
Alcor Hamlet.
Citadel.
That also became a joke. Yeah, like you're just
that,
running around Citadel, you hear this shit.
In the Citadel DLC, when you actually get to be in the Blasto movie, is one of the coolest bits.
And there's also just an Alcor standing there who's like reciting Shakespeare.
Because that's right, they're the buddy cops, and he's got the Alcor partner. Shit, I forgot about that.
Oh, I'm talking about okay. So there's that, and there's also another joke I think from Mass Effect 1 about an all Alcor production of Shakespeare's Hamlet.
Yeah,
and it actually pays off where you get to meet one of the Alcor actors in the Citadel DLC. Yeah, total fan service, but in the best way.
That's all the Citadel was. It's just like fucking love letter to our fans, and it's amazing.
Yeah. So on that note, is there anything else from the Mass Effect series you think we should discuss or is worth noting before we move on?
Drinking with Garrus in the Citadel when the sniping mission. That's like the fucking Vermeer mission was probably like the defining moment, but that where you just like doing like the competitive sniping with Garrus after drinks is like probably my favorite.
It's one of the I think it's one of the iconic moments from the series. We're just sort of reflecting on everything that's been happening, and there's almost a hint of nostalgia in there. We were wishing to go back to the simpler times. We were just like hanging out on the Normandy together.
If like I don't think another game could do without the like 3 games of
build up.
backstory.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. Like it's very that's one of the things I think makes Mass Effect better than Dragon Age, in my opinion, is like how Dragon Age is always changing your main character and changing, like it's the same world, but it's not the same people. But like Mass Effect, like get that emotional connection to the character, to your Shepard, to your crew, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dragon Age, like it new main character in every series, so they'll try the same things, like, oh, Liliana's back, and she's talking about how the Grey Warden sexed her up, but you're like, oh, it doesn't mean anything to me because I'm playing as a completely new character who has no basis for understanding her. And the Grey Warden is never going to show up again because they don't want to have to take into account so many decisions you make because there's so many more decisions you could make about him than you could in Mass Effect. So he's never coming back.
Well, I think it's a different approach to building the games, though. It's a completely different approach that they're taking, right?
Well, it is completely, but I think it ends up being a worse approach, if you want. Like, I don't know if that's really the right word, but it like means you have less emotional connection to what's going on in the games than you do in Mass Effect. But it's like a more expansive world, but a like less emotionally involved world.
So, I mean, I never felt as emotionally attached to my Dragon Age characters, with the possible exception of Hawk, as I did to Shepard. But I think sort of what Dragon Age is trying to do is put you in the role of somebody who's making decisions about sort of an entire society, rather than, explicitly role playing as a single character. So I think they're different approaches to making games or making role playing games specifically. But I mean, I can see if you're really looking for that emotional investment, I can see why you would feel that Dragon Age is deficient in that regard. So that's Mass Effect in a nutshell. I think we've sort of covered the entire trilogy.
Not enough Garrus talk.
Not enough Garrus talk. We could talk. We can start an After Dark Garrus podcast.
Next week. Next time I'm on the podcast, it's going to be Garrus Watch.
All right, Garrus Watch 2017. or whatever year is it in Mass Effect, like 2178? I don't even know. But yeah, we'll have a Garrus watch. We'll see how that goes.
I want to ask one question to the group assembled. Like I want to ask. It's actually a two-part question. One, how far into the future do you think Andromeda is going to take from the rest of the games? And two, do you think that at some point in the probable upcoming trilogy, will they learn that they didn't have to leave the Milky Way after all, and are they going to be super bummed about it?
Well, I kind of know the answer to two. Well, at least I've read some of the theories to two, and that is that this is actually a Cerberus thing. Cerberus is kind of behind the Andromeda initiative to send people out to the other
I'm
galaxies.
Going to say...
I don't think Cerberus would have allowed any alien species on the trip if that was true.
Andromeda, there's like the main like pathfinding ships. There's one for each race. There's like a Asari one, a Krogan one, a Turian one, a Solarian one, and a human one.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like a well-supported theory.
What I read is kind of convincing, but I guess we'll see. But
I mean,
the indoctrination I guess it's about 500 years in the future.
I think that they've said that something like 600 years. I think they've actually announced how far it is into the future.
It'd be a good trip. Good trip. It was only like 1 year, and they actually then went through a wormhole, and like, oh god, the Reapers are back.
I think they're gonna. I think this is gonna be a clean break.
Back on Earth is on fire.
I think this is just gonna be a completely clean break, and that's why it's several hundred years in the future. I don't think there's going to be any references at all to the Milky Way, except for people saying, "Yeah, I missed life in the Milky Way," but I don't think there's going to be any major plot links. I think this is a clean break.
At least Andromeda is a cooler name for a galaxy than Milky Way.
Yeah, we kind of got saddled with a shitty name for our galaxy. Can we petition astronomers to change it?
Anyway.
Pardon me?
Who the fuck actually named them? Like, what astronomer decided to name our own galaxy the Milky Way?
Dr. Milky Way.
Yeah, Dr. Milky Way was...
also inventor of the candy bar.
Yeah, I was going to say, he had a fairly high opinion of himself. Yeah, we really got saddled with a shitty name, unfortunately.
Got to be 600, 700 years into the future, because I don't think this game is actually importing saves, is it? Like, you can't import your...
No, not at all.
No, I think I want to say they're going to do the Kodor thing of they're going to ask you a few questions, like, so how was shit going back on Earth before we left? And you could be like, well, Lady Shepherd did this, or a male shepherd did that, and he or she was kind of a dick or kind of a nice person. That's kind of as much as you can do.
Yeah, because I think one of the big advantages of setting it that far into the future is if you do end up going back to the Milky Way or whatever, it's far enough in the future that all the decisions from the end of Mass Effect 3 can be normalized. Like, say, you chose the synthesis ending, I chose the fucking control ending. Like, it's far enough in the future that synthesis could have been achieved naturally in that time period, so everyone is synthesized and it makes sense no matter what you chose at the end of Mass Effect 3.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't think we're going to see that. I just think Andromeda is a completely clean... I don't think we're going back to the Milky Way at all.
Yeah, I don't think we're really going back to the Milky Way.
That's one of the reasons it's that far ahead in the future, is that they can ignore all the fucking changes they made. But I also think...
the fans are going to be up in arms if they do that, though.
I don't think anyone's going to be, upset that they didn't have to leave or whatever. Like, you said, are they going to find out they didn't need to leave and be upset? Because I think if you're going on the Andromeda mission, if you choose to do that, you're have made that decision already. You would take that into account before you leave your entire life behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between I don't think the characters would be mad. I'm saying fans who played the game will be like, my decisions didn't matter, and we all know how angry people get when their decisions in video games don't matter.
Oh, fans are going to be pissed off because they're fans and they get pissed off no matter what happens.
Yeah,
there's not enough Sonic in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Yeah. There's no Sonic.
Yeah, I want OG BioWare. I want my Sonic back in my Mass Effect.
I want them to bring back all the Baldur's Gate characters. Why can't I have that one Victoria Valina dark elf sex lady in my party? What the hell is wrong with this? I want them to go to a planet.
I want them to go to a whole race of dark elf sex ladies.
I want them to go to a planet in the Andromeda and Dragon Age is happening on the planet.
That's literally what I was just about to say. I want to see that so badly.
That'd be amazing.
The ship just crashes and a dark spawn comes out.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, is this like how Portal and
secretly
Half-Life take place in the same
Right.
universe?
You can save, like, if you have a Dragon Age, because it like secretly imports that, and you just land on your planet, and there's your fucking Inquisitor there, like, yo, what's up? And you're like, fuck.
Yes. I want more
That
again in
would
my
be-
party.
That would be very weird indeed. And on that note, I think it's time to call this podcast to a close. So if you'd like to keep up to date with the podcast, you can, of course, follow us on our website at avocadogamescast.wordpress.com, where we post each episode and we post a link dump. So a lot of the stuff we're saying here that we're not really sure about, we're going to try to fact check it so we can verify it later once we finally post this.
No,
you can
we're
also
not.
Hey, I actually do that. I actually
The link
listen
was
to the
great.
entire podcast and find the links for everything.
Yeah.
We post. I actually
Everything
put
I
a
said
bit
is
of work.
100% accurate.
Everything we say is true. Believe everything. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Avocado Gamescast. And finally, I should also remind you that Mass Effect Andromeda comes to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC on Tuesday, March 21st.
Remember when
if you're
Shepard and
listening to
Kai
the-
Leng were long-lost siblings?
That is an actual part of the video games.
That'd be great.
That would be great if it were. I'm going to quote a Fox News post and say that would be. Pardon me?
Remember that mission you had to do that was just entirely about different alien dicks?
Yeah, remember Shepard's just like weighing different dicks with his hands, like this one gives it like a 7 out of 10.
The dick rate.
That is the most important mission in Mass Effect Uranus. Yeah, sorry, we had to make that joke. It's a space game. So on that note, thank you guys for being on the podcast with me. This was a fun, very lengthy and informative discussion about Mass Effect.
I'm more
so-
excited for Andromeda after this conversation. I'm starting to remember, oh wait, I love Mass Effect. I'm really excited for the new game.
And I'm glad that you guys are excited because I think this is going to be a fun one. So, well, good night to all our listeners, and thank you all for being on the podcast.
All right.